Chaplain friends, we want to welcome you to Three Pastors Keeping It 100. On my right is a young man that I have known since, he was right around 10 years old. He was actually our neighbor across the street. We used to prank each other. It got kind of crazy at times. And then, I watched him get this interest and passion for fishing. And all of a sudden, I found myself watching a series called Top Hooker, and it had some of the best pro outdoorsmen in the country, pro fishermen and women, and they competed in all kinds of crazy events, including that ropes deal with the net, man.
That's right, the zip line.
Yeah, because you did really well in that event, and so I got to watch him go and become really a nationally ranked, top-ranked fisherman. And then on top of that, he started producing the outdoor show Origins. And, I've just watched him grow. And it's so weird because I still want to relate to you as that kid across the street. And here you are, nationally recognized as one of the top fishermen and outdoorsmen in the country. And so it's really my pleasure to introduce to you Danny Devries.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's kind of funny because I still consider myself that little punk kid who does pranks still, and I'm 30 years old now, and I'm still like, oh man, I got to grow up one of these days.
Well, you kind of picked the right profession though to just kind of stay in the sweet spot,
Yeah, I think age is kind of a big mental thing for me, and the career choice that I decided allows me to stay young and active and travel and be energetic, and so if I don't have to grow up, I choose not to.
Why? Though, got a beautiful wife, Kim, and two tremendous children, Cadence and Colt.
Yeah.
And they are all adorable. So so it's just a real joy to just watch you guys grow and see how things are working. And of course, here on my left is the producer of Three Pastors Keeping It 100.
Hey, I'm
Pastor
still stuck
Al.
on Top Hooker.
I know.
It was fishing.
I was quick to
It was
say
fishing.
it was a fishing show. Outdoors.
Believe it or not, that's not on my resume so much anymore.
Yeah.
So,
But you know what? That was so cool, though. It was so fun to watch, one of our local people in this national show, and I think most of Paige was watching.
oh yeah,
And then at the very finale, Danny made it to the top 4, and then was part of that last episode where they had Danny on his team, and Danny caught a 47-pound lemon shark.
yeah.
Shark, wow.
That was
On national
crazy.
TV.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was crazy. We were catching a ton of lingcod, which I had never seen a lingcod in my life. I'm a bass fisherman. I've freshwater fished my entire life. So we go out in this boat and we're catching 20 to 15-pound lingcod, and they have teeth everywhere. They got teeth in their gill. Ooh. Then all of a sudden, I caught this fish, and I was like, what in the world is going on? This isn't fighting right. And the deal was Patrick had to reel it in. I could catch him, but he had to do all the work, which I'm glad because when he got it up, we're looking on the side of this boat 15 feet up on the bank, and it's a 47-pound shark. We get it onto the deck, and we need to get in the net, and not knowing what I'm doing, I jumped right on that thing, which jumping on a 47-pound lemon shark flopping around on the deck is probably not the smartest thing I've ever done in my life. But it was a cool experience. It was cool. I want to go back and see if I can do it again, especially my son. He's 4 years old now. He loves sharks. We watched that episode, and we were talking about it. Shark Week's going on now, and my wife was like, hey, that's a lemon shark. Your dad caught one of those, and he thought, at that moment,
Like,
I am King Kong, man. He's just like, dang, let's go shark fishing. I'm like, I kind of can't, like, pal, but.
I'll tell you
That's
what.
really cool. Hey, question for you. When I was teaching at the high school, you was there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you wasn't in my class, or were you in my class? I can't remember.
No, I wasn't. Actually, it's funny because my junior and senior year, I wasn't in much of any classes. I had work release, and I was actually going to graduate my junior year with my brother's class.
Got you.
And he kind of looked at me, and he's like, no, you are the class of 08. You're not 2007. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So my senior year, I actually went every other day, and I only had school for half a day.
Okay.
And one of those classes was PE, and the other one was English. So
PE, that was my best.
Yeah, I bet. So were you into fishing then?
Oh, yeah.
Were you?
Yeah, I actually I grew up fishing with my dad here on Lake Powell,
right.
and he used to work at Yamamoto and Bubba's Prop Shop when that was up there.
Yep.
And my dad was going to become a guide, but he was a teacher, and he had a family, and so he could never really commit to doing that. So I grew up fishing. We got rid of our boat when I was like I was probably about like 7 or 8. We got rid of our pontoon boat, got a camper, and I always wanted to go back fishing. I was 12 years old when I bought my first video camera and said, I'm going to make a career out of this. And after that, my brother was able to drive. And so he drove us down to the docks, and that fire got lit at like 12 years old and ran into the Kiesling boys. And you know how they are in the outdoors. They all love it too. And we went every single day after school in the summer, down to the docks fishing, bought my first boat, started doing tournaments, did junior clubs, and at 16 years old, my first tournament by myself actually won here on Lake Powell, and I was like, this is it. This is all I'm going to do. That's it.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember you, and because Danielle would go fishing with you guys sometimes.
Yeah, but she cheated. She always caught the big fish in front of us on like worms and stuff.
since he said that because I remember the last time that she went fishing with them is that they were on the fishing dock at Waweep, and they hung all these old Christmas trees down there for cover for the small fry, so they could hide and grow to be decent sized fish.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was a really nice crappie hanging around there, and they're all trying different things. And I think you guys kind of got impatient. You started working the bank, and you were doing pretty good on the bank.
Yeah.
And then I think Danielle I don't know for sure, and she'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if it was a mealworm or a regular worm, and all of a sudden she pulled that crappie out.
Yeah, this thing was like close to the lake record, and we had been drooling over this fish for weeks, and we're throwing doll flies and imitation. We're not using real bait. She shows up with a pack of worms and smokes the dude while we're on the bank, and she's like, look, guys, last time she ever came.
Yeah.
That was it.
Never
that was
invited
it.
her again. Never invited her again.
Right on.
And I thought about bringing it. I was going to let that go because I'm just thankful that you're on the show. And so I was just like, okay, I'm just going to be, really polite to my guest. But
It was
since
a
you brought
humbling
it up,
experience.
That's fair game. Yeah.
Cool.
But that also tells you how much you've grown, because it's not a big deal. Because
No.
you've done some major things. You just took, what was it, number 7 out in California out of 200 and...
Yeah, so California Open was the second stop of the tour that I'm fishing currently, and there was 160 of the best pros and 160 co-anglers, so 300 guys out there on the water fishing a lake I had never been to before in my life, and came out with 7th place. I was sitting in 3rd going into the last day, had the fish to get 2nd, but we just couldn't get it in the net, and getting 7th place on a lake I've never seen in my life, I mean, it was a blessing to be out there and experience it, because Clear Lake, there's some giants. We ended up catching the biggest fish of the entire tournament and biggest fish of day 2, and it was 10.59 pounds. That's the biggest fish I've weighed in a tournament professionally.
Wow.
And it's only like half a pound away from my personal largest largemouth bass. It was a really cool place.
Big largemouth.
Yeah. Oh, it freaked me out
I've fished
too.
in Canada, and I've caught some 5.5 pounders and smaller.
Yeah.
And then I've caught out east of the Rockies, I've caught like a 8+ pound walleye, which is a riot.
Yeah, that's huge.
But I'll tell you, man, that's some excitement. I can't even imagine hooking into a 10-pound largemouth. That's just
It was
me
5
fired
minutes of panic. I'll tell you that much, because the first time my co-angler went to net it, he missed it, and it was funny because I set the hook and it started to come up to jump, and I was like, I'm not making eye contact with this fish because I'm going to lose it, And I hear it jump, and my buddy Andrew Upshaw, he's a pro on the Bassmaster Opens, he's in the boat next to me, and he said, you better not lose that one, buddy. And it gets next to the boat. My co-angler missed it the first time on the net. Oh, my heart sank, dude. It was nerve-wracking.
That's crazy. Hey, real quick, I just want to make this announcement. I just want to thank you, bro, for taking my son under your wing, bro. Seriously.
Hey, it's a pleasure, man.
He loves you, dude. He loves you a lot, man. And for anybody to take a teen under their wing and show them the right way to do things, that means a lot, because I work with teenagers, what I'm saying? And they're always looking for somebody that believe in them.
Mm-hmm.
So I truly believe that, dude. And let me tell you, this dude loved fishing. We went camping, right? Did he tell you?
Yeah.
That we was fishing on paddle boards, bro.
Yeah.
And he caught a fish.
Yeah.
He
Said he caught a walleye and a bunch of small, and we were pre-fishing for this tournament, and I was like, hey, when you were over there, was there any size of those fish? He's like, we don't want to go over there. I was like, all right. I'm just checking. No, I had someone, Jarrett Edwards, he invested in my career as an outdoorsman when I was really young. And he was a big reason, he is a big reason of why I am where I am. He helped me navigate the business side, the fishing side, and really in the outdoor industry, investing in the next generation is something that needs to happen. And your son, he's been more of a blessing in my life than he'll ever know. And I will take that kid fishing any day he wants to come on my boat, because the kid is a stick. He's got a good head on his shoulders. And, I was in Texas, and this guy told me, one day I'm going to find someone to make my ceiling their floor. And your son, my ceiling, my cap in this industry is going to be the floor for him, and he's going to take it so much higher than I can, because he's just got he's got a good head on his shoulders. And finding people like that, young men like that, I mean, he's really impressed me off the water. I love him to death. That kid is really something special.
Well, let me tell you this. When he told me, well, Rayshawn, he's studying pharmaceuticals, right?
Yeah.
And when Jaden told me, I want to get a scholarship in fishing, I'm like, huh? I'm like, what?
Yeah, you're all into My Son the Doctor, right?
Yeah.
So, I didn't know what to think for the longest. You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, Lord. this, maybe you're going to turn him into a fisher of men. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know, and then you two got together. I'm like, all right. And hearing you talk, I'm like, all right, my son can go somewhere with this.
Yeah. No, he's got it. He's got it. We had 5 guys as a core group of anglers. We started the Junior Bassmasters here in high school. And for my parents, it was a struggle when I told them, college is not really something I'm looking for. Sponsorships is. And they didn't
Two school teachers.
Yeah, 2 school teachers.
Yeah.
And I'm telling them, like, my income's going to come from marketing companies and working in the outdoors, and it was hard for them to grasp, and honestly it's been a struggle to get to where we are, and now we're making a living. It's a career out of it, and it's cool because we live in the most blessed nation on the earth, in the world, where you can go out there, set your dreams high, goals high, achieve them, and make a living at it. And your son definitely has what it takes.
Right on. That's cool.
And I agree with that. Jaden is a spectacular drummer. So sometimes you'll see him on the drum set on Sunday morning. And I know Bob Wise, Lord rest his soul, he invested in him there.
Right.
And I mean, he can cross over on the bass now. And so he's got a lot going for him.
He get it from his mama.
So there you go.
Yeah.
So there you go, man.
So you came over to the house the other day picking up Jaden, and we started to have a conversation about online church and things like that. And you big in it because you travel a lot. You know what I'm saying? And one of my greatest concerns is, man, will the church bounce back? Will people start coming back to church like before? And you start sharing a little bit on how you feel, although you did online, you felt being at church was a whole lot better. You want to share a little bit on that?
Yeah, being on the road, and it's crazy because this year my traveling season kind of got split up with the COVID and Corona stuff. Usually we're done fishing tournaments in April, and I don't travel again until it's hunting season in August. I started traveling in July, and I spend from now until December, my wife and I were looking at, I have 7 weeks in Page, and everything else is on the road. And so being able to listen to podcasts, sermons, and stuff like that when I'm doing 16, 17-hour drives and still try and get fed is a really cool piece of technology, the way that God can use technology to still further advance his kingdom. But coming back to a church, and it's funny because a lot of people are like, man, it's good to see you on Sunday. It's like, man, it's good to be seen on Sunday, because I'm gone all the time, and we're happy to call Faith Bible our home church now. And when I'm in town, we like to bring the family here. The kids enjoy it and everything. But there's something that you get when you're surrounded by other believers that you can't get online. There's the body is made up of different members with different strengths, and you don't know when someone has something for you that God's going to use that person in person, not necessarily on FaceTime. It's like when you go to hang out with friends, you don't get online and just video chat from a distance. You have them over and you enjoy their company and you build each other up. It's the same thing in church. It's important to be plugged in to a physical church because we're here to build each other up. You don't know when God's going to put something on your heart that's going to bless someone else. And if you don't show up in the presence of other believers to build each other up and to encourage each other, there's a lot of negativity around the world right now. And sitting on your couch and enjoying a sermon from the couch, it's cool that we have that ability, but there's something to be seen when you see someone who's ignited by the joy of Christ in their life. It's refreshing. And you can't get that from your lazy boy recline. And I love my lazy boy, don't get me wrong. But it's absolutely priceless to be able to be surrounded by like-minded people with the same common goal, because in this world, Christianity and Christians are not a dime a dozen. I mean, finding fellow believers is not something that is around every corner. I mean, yeah, there's Christians everywhere and there's believers everywhere, but when you can come here and be lifted and surrounded by people who share that same passion and love the Lord, that you can't replace it, and you can't find that online.
See, and I think that's so very important, because the truth of the matter is like, we know all the details of each other's lives, our marriages, raising kids, those struggles together, watching you grow up, knowing
that was a struggle.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't have been if you didn't have such a good arm, but we won't go there. But the thing is that because of the relationship we have, and that includes Pastor Bob, and because we know the details of each other's life, part of community is accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't do accountability with casual relationships. I'm so thankful for what's happening with Al and DJ and Danelle and those who make this happen so we can go online. And I thank God for this season because of the COVID virus. But that's a stopgap.
Mm-hmm.
It's a stopgap. We want people safe. We want you to adhere to CDC measures. We're not here to tear that down or attack that. But we need to understand, and I'm really thankful that you're here today, because that's one of the things I'm concerned about, is Christianity does not really work outside of relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's got to be in relationship, and it's got to have depth. It can't be a casual online, Facebook, you can make it all look the way you want.
Right,
you can
right,
manage your image
right.
the way you want.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
man, I've been with you before and after you married your wife,
Yeah.
Saw her, met Cadence before you guys married, and then watched as Colt was getting ready to come into the world. And what a guy he is, man. Owns Danielle's heart. So
That's his girlfriend.
yeah, it's so fun to watch. Oh, he is like a master flirt. Holy cow. Yeah, we're gonna have to. But see, in community, we can all keep an eye on him.
Exactly.
Because he's devastating. So, but I think that's just so huge.
Yeah, no, it is. And reality is there's a lot of negativity that comes through screens, whether it's through the tube, through the computer, through the phone. There's a lot of things that can bring you down. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the enemy's biggest tools as a defeated Christian, is not moving mountains for the kingdom, because you kind of just feel defeated and depressed. And the best way to get out of that is to surround yourself with other believers who can pour into you and fill up your cup again. Mm-hmm. You can get a lot out of the Bible. You can get a lot out of prayer. You can get a lot out of face-to-face interaction, just talking with someone and getting out of your own headspace and getting back into the direction that God has set forth for you. And I think with so much negativity, being encouraged in person is, you can't replace that.
I agree
at all.
Right, you're absolutely right. So my biggest thing is, so what do we tell the people? Because you get comfortable being at home.
Yeah.
You don't have to put on no makeup. You don't have to get ready. You can just chill. You know what I'm saying? You can skip worship, or you can rewind worship.
Yeah.
Or you can fast forward the message. Or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't do that when you come to. It's no fakeness
Yeah.
when you come to church. So,
Or at least it's a lot harder.
hey, thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly. Unless we find people falling asleep, then that'll be the last time they fall asleep here.
That's why I keep super balls. I got those bouncy super balls right there. So
You're right. There you go. So what do we tell the people? Don't get so comfortable that you don't want to come to church anymore. And I understand people still struggling with the virus. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about those people. They need to stay home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, if you're vulnerable, we want you to stay home.
Exactly.
Please understand that.
But the healthy ones,
Yeah.
with no excuses. What would you tell those guys?
I mean, if you look at the history of how God moves, big things happen when you move out of your comfort zone. If you're going to get comfortable sitting there on your couch, you're going to kind of get complacent. I'm just calling it how it is.
That's the truth.
I mean, this isn't butterfly and fairy tale story. This is just reality. If you sit there on your couch and that's the only way you're going to get fed, you're going to get complacent in your walk and in your spiritual. And the thing is, the best thing that you can let ruin your growth is distractions. And when you're at home and you're surrounded by all your things and everything around, distractions happen. Period. End of story. You sit there on the couch, you're not paying attention, worship's going on, whatever, you're making breakfast for the kids, all this stuff, all of a sudden, oh, you know what, I forgot to go do this. And you get up from the couch. And then, I can miss this Sunday, I got too much going on. Oh, the internet came out, next Sunday. When you start making excuses, you can start slowly allowing more and more. You give an inch, turns into 2, turns into 3, and reality is, if you want to take your relationship seriously, it is biblical that you show up and be surrounded by fellow believers to build each other up.
Well, and I want to propose something to folks out there that's kind of a step towards that that can allow you to be around some people in fellowship, but it still allows you some distancing. And we've got some folks in church that are doing this, to where Sunday mornings they get together and they gather at a house, just a small group.
Yeah. A
small group of healthy people. You don't show up if you're sick. The folks there are all healthy and are at a place where there's minimal risk, and they watch it together. And the great thing about that is you're watching service at home. Pause. Go do something for 15 minutes. Right. Well, you've lost the whole train of thought. Right. You go back, you turn it on, and meanwhile, you're looking at your phone, flipping through Facebook.
Yeah.
And all of those things are happening. But, man, even with a small group of 4 or 5 people or 6 or, and we've had some groups in different homes that are a little bigger than that, but with that, you've got fellowship, and you've got accountability, and you're building relationship. They usually finish with a meal. And so watch parties, I think, is the term. But you can just do some watch parties. And I know I would, when we were doing the recording before Sunday, Danielle and sometimes Justin would come over, and some other folks would come over, and we'd watch it at the house. Yeah. But we watched it together. So, and of course, church is open for those who are healthy, and we've got every other roadblock so that there's good, safe social distancing. But and that's been fun, and it's starting to feel like church again. Live worship is always fun. But I think that's a good intermediate step. And nothing's to stop you from doing that.
Yeah, I think watch parties is a fantastic opportunity for you to grow together, and really that's where you're going to see real growth is in communities. Yes. When you can be real. I was talking to my buddy JD the other night for like 2 hours on the phone, and I said, can you imagine what the church would look like if Jesus was here today? And he's like, dude, we put him on the cross fast as they did because he's hanging out with the sinners, this and that. But the reality is the church then was real. In those smaller communities, you can be real. You can pull your buddy aside and say, hey, I need some prayer.
Yeah.
I need some help. And the reality is, it's uncomfortable to say those things, but that verbalization and that admitting that you need help and that your other friends, hey man, I'm here for you. Let's figure this out. Let's do this. Let's set up boundaries. Let's work through this together. You can't get that just on distance, church. But those watch parties, you can start building those communities. And goodness, can you imagine the growth people would have if you had common core families that were centered around Christ and the kids grew up together and the parents worked together, or the couples or just the friends work together through their stuff, and you saw the rebuilding and structure. Because the reality is, when you're going through stuff, the best thing to do is to face it head on and call it out, because the first thing Satan ever does is he questions your identity, right? He did it to Jesus. He said, if you are the Son of God, when he was tempting Jesus, he knew who Jesus was. He didn't say, because you're the Son of God. He said, if you're the Son of God. So the first thing he's going to do for us when we're going through things is call us out and make us question our identity. If you truly are a Christian, would you be doing this? When you get in those communities, you can go to fellow believers and say, hey, this is going on and I'm struggling. I need help. And in those small communities of watch parties, you can see tremendous growth. And I think that's a perfect bridge gap between online, by yourself, get into a community until you feel it's safer, until we're able to open the doors back up and fill the seats again.
And then keep the community, and you can do that on a weeknight.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Something different.
What's that called? Small groups? Is that what that's called? Yeah, I think there's a term for that, right?
I think that's part of what's fun about having you here today, because your dad, who was the chief elder at First Baptist, and he crossed the street from me, and I mean sometimes we'd literally meet in that center lane on South Navajo, and we'd talk. And I trusted Dale with things, and he trusted me with things, and we supported each other. One time we weren't home, and something was going on, and I get a call from Dale. And so, there extra parenting going on in those small groups. It's like you got more parents watching the kids, and and you got that support for one another. And so I mean, if something was up, man, we backed each other up. I remember one time the girls thought somebody was in the house, and we weren't there, so they called Dale. Dale came over immediately, and everybody's scared of Dale.
I was going to say, that's not a man you want to meet in the middle of the night.
And Dale comes to the front door, and they thought they heard something on the back, and in the back porch, and Dale went in the back porch, and the girls were just like, oh, and they will never forget. That.
And that's true community that we need as believers. That these are all distractions. These are all short-term things right now. But the reality is, the enemy is waiting for any opportunity to distance ourselves from other believers, disconnect us from the family, disconnect us from anything that's going to allow us to grow and move the kingdom. He wants to distract.
Divide and conquer.
Absolutely.
Divide and conquer.
Absolutely.
That's the way he works.
Well, his task is to isolate us, man. Once he got us isolated, then we're pretty much doomed. You know what I'm saying? Unless we call on one another. But, Pastor Bob, man, he's really big on college football. I watch it on TV and things like that, and he's like, you know what, Al, I want to take you to a game. I'm like, why? I could watch it on TV, right? And then I decided to go to a game. And I'm like, oh, my sweet Jesus, this is totally different, bro. People pay for the experience. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Different experience.
Exactly. And that's what it is at the church. I mean, it's the experience. Yeah, you can watch it on TV. You get some good message on TV. But, when you actually come to church, it's the experience of meeting the Holy Spirit, encountering Jesus, encountering other believers and things like that, you know? So,
Yeah, I'm well, and I think that's it. Is you've got the experiential aspect of it, that it's just so different, so much more powerful together. But then the community aspect, I think, is just absolutely essential. We are not meant to do this by ourselves. You'll never see that in Scripture. In the military, there were times I was by myself, but the reason why John Baker and I are such close friends is because when we were out in the military, we found each other and other believers, and we are still tight.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Eli Fournier, good friend of mine. You guys are going to meet him at some point. He'll be here. Of course, you might be traveling at the time, but
Probably.
but you might have met him before, actually. But I don't think so. But you know, and I mean, Monty. You know, I mean, we've got we're still tight because you know we found each other, and we weren't in the same actual unit. But we met at chapel, and we became our own small group,
right.
and then we led other people to the Lord in that context.
Yeah.
And so
That's a beautiful thing.
I tell you what, that was actually where I got started in ministry, was in the small group that John Baker and I led. And then when he got out, just before I did, no, just after I did, but he went right from there into the mission field.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, so, and I started college, married my wife, and
Right. Here you are.
And here I am.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Well, if you think about it, how people come to know Christ, very rarely is it on your own. It's usually God calls us to make disciples, you know, and
fishers of men.
Yeah, fishers. Yeah, for some reason he likes fishermen, and I'm cool with that because, I mean, you know, I'm like, hey, you know, Peter, he was a fisherman. God loves fishermen, so us rednecks, we got a chance, you know.
There you go. There you go.
But like the reality is, when you came to know Christ, there were people around you who helped you navigate that, who helped build you up. One of my biggest influences growing up was Jason Fisher. You know, Jason Fisher poured into our lives, and he kind of got me started in being a youth leader back in the day, you know, and I went to school for all of like 2 months to go do youth ministry and realize that school just wasn't for me. And so, you know, like him and I, after he moved, would still get together and we would just talk openly, and we had that community, and we were inseparable. You know, when he passed away, it was devastating for our youth group kids that grew up with him and the youth group that he was working with. But he kind of just fostered that community where kids could grow and get open. I think personally, I can probably count on my two hands how many times that it's been a one-on-one by myself moment that really just kind of switched things for me. And I can't count on two hands because it's been multiple times where I've been in a community setting that God used others to speak into my life, to pour into my life. And it's just a little nugget that someone has that plucks on the right heartstring, and you're like, ooh, man, that's powerful, and it changes the way you go through life. And really, we're made to be together from the beginning. Adam and Eve. He said, you're not meant to be alone. And that's how it is even today. We're not meant to be alone, and we need to be there for each other, you know.
Well, and having known you most of your life, you know, I mean, you know, man that finds a wife finds a good thing, and Danny, I can tell you from experience, is not meant to be alone. And God provided
that would be destructive. 100%. That would be destructive.
It's kind of like, you know, reminds me of that old show Tool Time, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just such a good thing, and even from a practical side too. I mean, I remember you and Kim and Cadence were at the house, and you guys were really looking at coming back to Page and moving ahead that way. And the big thing was for Kim, you know, where would she find employment? And I just happened to be aware of what was going on at which I'm going to be there today, actually,
at the agency
at
there.
Pioneer. And they were looking for someone at Pioneer, and I'm like, well, you should talk to. And it just so happened that we bought the house from the Joneses, and the lady that was running Pioneer, right? Becky Alston had grown up in that house, and she was in the process of moving, her and Darren and Ashley. And so I knew there was a vacancy there, and Kim made that connection, and that was part of what opened the door for you guys to come up here.
That was a big thing.
You know, but community, that's part of what happens in community, is that we help each other hook up, and you know, with different things like jobs, and so that's just part of why we need each other.
You're right.
You know, on those, there's the spiritual side and the growth side and the challenge side, but there's also just that practical. You know, that practical resources that we can help each other out with. That's part of what's great about living in Page. Because we help each other here as a town.
You know, and it's funny because as an adult, where are you finding friends? Where are you making friends? Where are you making community? You know, we live down in Phoenix, and I was helping out one of the fastest growing churches in the valley, Cornerstone Online, with their men's stuff. And it was funny because outside the men I had in that men's group, I lived in one of the largest cities and couldn't find friends, you know? And mainly is because I'm on the road. It's kind of hard to meet and connect with people on the road. But when you come here, you can meet people, you can get connected, and you can find people who are like-minded and have that community. And I mean, you can't buy that online. Yeah. You can't find it on Amazon Prime. Real relationships are built face-to-face. Yep. I didn't meet my wife, you know, online, and we decided we get married because we were chatting through Skype or whatever. Yeah. We had actual face-to-face relationships, and I was like, hey, I really think there's something special here. Exactly. Maybe she can, like, marry me or something. And I don't know what I did for her to say yes. That was kind of the theme of my wedding, was like,
how did this happen?
Yeah, everyone's like, we never thought he would get married. Right. And everyone's just like, bless your heart. And I'm like, oh, man, she is a godsend.
You married up.
That's 100%. But that's how those relationships are built. Anything that's value takes time and takes dedication. Yeah. And if you want to be serious about your walk with Christ, it's going to take time. It's going to take dedication. It's going to take other people around you to build you up, pour into you. And you never know when you're going to be the person there to reach out and pull someone up out of what they're going through.
Yeah, exactly.
And honestly, one of the most rewarding things about the faith is when you see somebody connect.
Yeah.
And you see them elevate.
Or that light turn on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Hey, and you know, me and DJ, we've been having this hard discussion between us about, you know, starting up the youth, you know, having the youth come back, because I think this applied to the young people as well. You know what
More
I'm saying?
More so, yeah.
So, you know, in September, we're talking about kicking that off right at See You at the Pole. But, you know, just a word for the young people, hey, don't get too comfortable. Come. I mean, you know, they relate with their friends on video games and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you have a word for them? Because, you know, I want to win the young people hearts once again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, the reality is there's so many people in school growing up that can tell you how to be, how to live, this, that, and the other, and not necessarily going to be taking you to what's best for you.
Right. Yeah.
The reality is when you're surrounded by other believers, when you go into school and things start getting weird or different for you, you've got your fellow believers that you hang out with, that you grow with at youth group, that you guys get built up together with. I mean, the state youth convention, that was a life-changing experience for me spiritually. 17 years old. I mean, it was like total revival in my heart, just rejuvenation, rededication. And it happened in that community setting. If I wasn't in that community setting, I would have missed out.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have
huge bunch of believing youth going crazy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, it's so encouraging to see. I remember as a high schooler and middle schooler, you know, we used to meet at the community center back in the day, right? We used to do that, and Brent, Teresa, and all that, and that was kind of the start. Then we got a youth group at First Baptist, and having that community and having that environment where it's okay to be surrounded, and it's okay to be a believer, and people aren't going to look at you like,
what's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you? Well, I mean, let me tell you, because it's going to change your life. I mean, it's essential.
Yeah. One of the greatest pieces of wisdom is to choose your friends wisely.
Yes.
Well, Pastor Brent, you are always saying, I use this still today, you show me your friends, I show you your future. Woo. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There it is.
100%.
Yep.
Right on. Go ahead, Pastor Manny.
All right, man. Well, we have run over, and it went so fast, and I would love to keep going, but I know we got to shut it down at some point. Besides that, I got to stop playing and get to work. So,
yeah, me too. I got to go hunting. So
yeah, so I'm thinking, you know, I'm starting to see a vision of what my future is. At, you know, when it's time to hand the reins of the church over now. So anyway, but you know, so we just want to say God bless you. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Danny, for coming and joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for
It's just
having
been great, and honestly, just to catch up with you, because when I saw you in church, I didn't get a chance to connect.
Yeah.
And but man, it's just great to have you. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
All right. God bless you. Well, hopefully we'll see you next week or this Sunday.